Trust. Such a fragile thing, yet Elena Carter built her entire world upon it. To her, marriage was sacred, a bond unshakable by time or circumstance. For 7 years she had devoted herself to her husband Richard Hale, a man ambitious, charming, and admired by everyone in their social circle. Together they ran a growing real estate company, and to outsiders, their life looked perfect. But behind the smiles and luxury, Elena carried invisible scars. She had given up her career in design to help Richard chase his dreams. She had distanced herself from friends and even family to stand by his side. And still, every night when she looked into his eyes, she wondered, did he truly see her worth? One evening, while arranging documents in Richard's study, she noticed a folder locked inside his drawer. Curiosity pricked at her. Richard was never secretive, at least not until recently. She opened it and froze. Hidden contracts, unrecorded transactions, and, most shocking of all, Elena's signature forged at the bottom of several papers. Her hands trembled. Why would he need my signature? Why would he hide this? The sound of footsteps snapped her out of her thoughts. Richard walked in, loosening his tie, smiling as if nothing was wrong. Elena quickly pushed the folder back, forcing a smile. "Working late again?" she asked softly. Richard kissed her cheek casually. "You know how it is, love. Deals don't sleep." But inside, Elena's heart began to whisper a warning she could no longer ignore. Days passed, and the distance between them grew wider. Richard often came home late, sometimes not at all. He guarded his phone like a soldier protects a weapon. The scent of unfamiliar perfume lingered on his shirts. One night, unable to bear the uncertainty, Elena followed him. She drove slowly behind his car through the city until he stopped at a luxurious hotel. Her heart pounded in her chest. She parked a few blocks away and hurried to the entrance. Through the glass doors, she saw him, Richard, laughing, his arm wrapped around a younger woman dressed in red. The intimacy between them was undeniable. Her vision blurred with tears. Every sacrifice she had made, every dream she had buried, now mocked her. She wanted to storm inside, to scream, to demand answers. But her legs betrayed her, turning her into stone. Instead, she turned away, biting her lips to keep from collapsing in the street. That night, when Richard finally returned home, Elena was waiting in the dark. "Where were you?" Her voice cracked but carried a strange calmness. Richard paused, then smirked. "Don't start, Elena. I've had a long day." "A long day? Or a long night with her?" she whispered, her fists clenched. For the first time, Richard's mask slipped. His eyes narrowed, cruel and sharp. "You think you're clever? Let me make this clear. You're nothing without me. This house, this company, this life, it's all because of me. Don't ever forget that." Elena's breath caught. The man she loved, the man she trusted with everything, had become a stranger, and deep inside her chest, something broke. But something else was born, a flame, a vow. He will regret this. Elena woke the next morning with swollen eyes. The memory of Richard's venomous words still echoed in her mind. She tried to steady herself with coffee, but her hands shook. She had loved him for so long, endured so much, and now she was questioning if her entire marriage had been a lie. Yet what she didn't know was that her nightmare was only beginning. 2 weeks later, Elena was preparing breakfast when a loud knock rattled the front door. Confused, she opened it to find 2 police officers. "Mrs. Carter?" one asked firmly. "Yes?" "You are under investigation for financial fraud and embezzlement. We have a warrant to search the premises." Her world spun. "What? That's impossible." Before she could gather her thoughts, the officers were already inside, searching, pulling out files, seizing computers. Neighbors began gathering outside, whispering, pointing fingers. Richard arrived moments later, feigning shock. "What is going on here?" The officer handed him a copy of the warrant. Richard's expression hardened in a way only Elena caught. It was the look of a man whose plan was unfolding perfectly. Elena's heart sank as she realized this was no mistake. This was deliberate. The court of shame within days, her name was dragged through every newspaper and online headline. Elena Carter accused of stealing millions from her own company. Richard's sister, Victoria, was quick to appear on television, crocodile tears streaming down her face. "My poor brother," she sniffled. He trusted Elena with everything, to discover that she betrayed him. It's devastating. Watching the broadcast, Elena nearly broke the screen. Victoria, the woman she had treated like family, was one of the masterminds. At the trial, the evidence seemed stacked against her. Forged signatures, manipulated bank statements, even audio recordings of her ordering illegal transfers. Elena stood there, her knees trembling, her voice breaking. "I didn't do this. Richard, tell them." But Richard, sitting across the courtroom, only lowered his eyes, pretending to be heartbroken. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. The judge didn't imprison her. There wasn't enough to convict fully. But her reputation was destroyed. Investors pulled out of her projects. Friends distanced themselves. Even relatives refused to take her calls. She was branded a thief. The night of despair. That night, Elena sat alone in her empty apartment, her luxury home gone, her wealth seized. Rain lashed against the window as she whispered to herself, "Why, Richard? After everything I gave you, why?" For hours she wept, curled on the cold floor. But somewhere between the sobs, a new voice spoke inside her, cold, steady. "They wanted to break you. They wanted you powerless. But they forgot one thing. You are still alive." Her tears dried. Her eyes hardened, and with a trembling breath, Elena swore into the silence. "They've taken everything from me. But now, I'll take everything from them." Weeks passed since the trial. Elena's days blurred into endless silence, her reputation shattered, her name mocked on every headline. But fate has a strange way of placing the right person at the lowest moment. One evening, as she walked out of a grocery store with only bread and milk in her hands, a familiar voice called out, "Elena?" She turned sharply. Standing there was Daniel Ross, her old college friend, the one who used to admire her ambition and kindness back in their university days. Now he was a lawyer, successful and respected. "Elena Carter," he said softly, studying her pale face. "I almost didn't recognize you. What happened to you?" For the first time in weeks, Elena felt a flicker of warmth. "They destroyed me, Daniel," she whispered. "Richard and his sister. They framed me for something I didn't do, and I let them. I was too blind to see who they really were." Daniel's expression hardened. "Then prove it. Fight back. Don't give them the satisfaction of watching you fall." His words stirred something inside her. For years she had been the quiet supporter, the obedient wife. Now, for the first time, someone was urging her to fight. With Daniel's guidance, Elena began to piece her life back together. He taught her how to look at evidence, how to analyze contracts, how to follow the trail of money. For hours they sat over coffee-stained documents, highlighting irregularities Richard and Victoria had missed. "Elena," Daniel said one night, tapping a file, "look here. Offshore accounts. These transactions aren't just shady, they're illegal. If we can connect these to Richard, it's over for him." Elena stared at the papers, her eyes blazing with a new fire. "Then we'll connect them. Every single one." To fight them, Elena knew she needed more than just evidence. She needed power, influence, a new identity. She found a small job at a design firm, humble compared to her old life, but it gave her purpose again. Slowly, she climbed back into the world of business, making connections quietly, discreetly. She dressed sharper, spoke with confidence, and carried herself like a woman reborn. Every glance in the mirror reminded her she was no longer Richard's wife. She was Elena Carter, the woman he underestimated. One night, as she scrolled through news articles about Richard's company, she noticed something interesting: a press release about a high-profile charity gala, sponsored by Richard himself, scheduled for 3 months later. Her lips curled into a slow, determined smile. "That's where it ends," she murmured. "That's where I'll take back everything." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan?" Elena's eyes gleamed. "Not a plan, Daniel. A promise." That night, she stood by her window, city lights flickering below. For the first time, she didn't cry. She didn't feel weak. Instead, she whispered to the darkness, "They thought they buried me, but they forgot. I am the storm they created. And when the storm comes, it will wash them away." The weeks leading up to the gala became Elena's battlefield. By day, she blended into her new life, a poised, polished professional. By night, she and Daniel worked tirelessly, piecing together every shred of evidence: bank transfers, offshore accounts, secret recordings of Richard's private meetings that Daniel managed to secure through contacts, emails Victoria thought she had deleted but were quietly retrieved. Every puzzle piece formed a picture of corruption so vast, so undeniable, that Elena could almost taste victory. Still, she kept her calm, her moves hidden. The element of surprise would be her sharpest weapon. The city's grand ballroom glittered with chandeliers, silk gowns, and the scent of money. The charity gala was Richard's pride, his chance to flaunt power and generosity. Cameras flashed, reporters praised, and Richard basked in the spotlight, Victoria by his side like a queen. Then came the moment that made Richard's smile falter. Dressed in an elegant black gown, with her hair swept back and eyes burning with confidence, she turned heads instantly. Guests whispered in shock. Some gasped. She wasn't the disgraced woman they remembered. She was radiant, commanding, untouchable. Richard's jaw clenched. "What the hell is she doing here?" he muttered. Victoria smirked coldly. "Ignore her. She's finished." But Elena walked straight into the lion's den, every step deliberate. As the dinner reached its height, Elena raised her glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," she called out, her voice steady yet sharp, "I'd like to make a toast. To truth." The room quieted. Richard's eyes narrowed, a flicker of unease spreading through him. Elena smiled faintly. "Many of you know me. Many of you also know the lies told about me. Tonight, I'm here not to defend myself, but to show you the truth." With a signal, Daniel stepped forward. He connected a drive to the large projector. Within seconds, the giant screen behind the stage lit up. Spreadsheets, wire transfers, recordings of Richard and Victoria discussing their schemes. The room gasped. Murmurs turned into chaos. One recording echoed clearly through the speakers. Richard's voice, cruel and arrogant. "She's too naive to suspect a thing. Frame her, take her name, her assets. It's the perfect cover." Victoria's voice followed, dripping with malice. "When the world believes she's a thief, no one will question us." The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye turned to Richard and Victoria, whose faces drained of color. Reporters surged forward. Guests pulled away in disgust. Within minutes, authorities, already tipped off by Daniel, entered the hall. "Elena Carter," the lead officer said respectfully, "thank you for your cooperation. Mr. Hale, Ms. Hale, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice." The siblings struggled, shouted, protested, but the evidence was undeniable. Handcuffs snapped shut, their empire crumbling before the crowd's eyes. Elena stood tall, her gaze unflinching as Richard was dragged past her. Their eyes met one last time. "You'll regret this," he spat. Elena's lips curved into a calm, cold smile. "No, Richard, you will." The triumph. As the cameras flashed, Elena lifted her glass once more. "To truth," she whispered, this time only to herself. The storm she promised had arrived, and it had washed away everything that tried to bury her. Days after the gala, headlines exploded across every media outlet. Business mogul Richard Hale arrested for massive fraud. Victoria Hale behind bars. Sibling empire collapses overnight. Elena Carter, the woman who rose from betrayal to justice. For the first time in months, Elena's name was spoken not with scorn, but with respect. Strangers on the street smiled at her, whispered words of admiration. Former friends, once too afraid to be seen with her, now reached out in shame and apology. But Elena wasn't the same woman anymore. She had no interest in their pity or empty praise. She had fought her war and won. One evening, Daniel found her sitting on a park bench, the cool breeze tugging at her hair. "You did it," he said softly, taking a seat beside her. "You've cleared your name. You've taken back everything they stole." Elena looked at him with a small, tired smile. "Not everything, Daniel. Some things can't be returned. My years, my trust, the woman I used to be." Daniel nodded slowly. "Maybe. But what you've gained is far greater. Strength, freedom, yourself." Her eyes softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe it. Months later, Elena launched her own foundation, one dedicated to supporting women who had been victims of betrayal, fraud, and injustice. The same kind of suffering she had endured, she now turned into power for others. Standing on stage at the foundation's inauguration, she addressed the crowd. "They thought they had broken me. They thought betrayal would end me. But what they forgot was, sometimes betrayal is the fire that forges you stronger. If I stand here today, it's not because I avoided pain, but because I embraced it and rose from it." The applause was thunderous. Yet deep inside, Elena didn't crave their approval. What she felt was peace. Quiet, steady, unshakable. That night, alone in her apartment, she stood by the window once again, gazing at the city lights. Months ago, she had made a vow to become the storm, and she had kept it. Now she whispered into the night, calm, resolute, victorious. "The storm has passed, and I am still here." Her reflection in the glass stared back, not broken, not betrayed, but reborn. Elena Carter had won,